The planet Zithra was unlike anything humans had ever imagined. Its cities floated in the sky, held aloft by invisible energy fields, and light shimmered along the streets like liquid gold. Towering crystal spires reached toward the twin suns, and the sky was streaked with colors that seemed alive, swirling in gentle waves of violet, green, and blue. For Princess Lyra, the beauty of her home had never lost its wonder, but lately it felt more like a cage than a gift. Lyra stood on the balcony of the Royal Observatory, overlooking the main city below. Her long hair glowed in the sunlight, catching strands of gold and silver, and her eyes reflected both the sky and the weight of responsibility she carried. She was the only child of King Thalos, ruler of Zithra, and the future of the kingdom rested on her shoulders. Every decision she made, every action she took would affect millions, yet Lyra felt restless. The expectations of royalty, ceremonial greetings, arranged alliances, and endless lectures about duty felt confining. She longed for something more than protocol and obedience, something beyond the palace walls. And as she often told herself in quiet moments, perhaps the world was larger than Zithra itself. It was on a morning like this that something unusual appeared in the sky. A small, sleek ship descended from the upper atmosphere, leaving a faint trail of silver light. The royal guards raised their energy shields automatically, tense and ready. Lyra's curiosity, however, surged ahead of caution. "What is that?" she asked softly, more to herself than anyone else. "A vessel from outside Zithra, Your Highness," said her aide, a tall, silver-haired advisor named Kale. "It is unidentified. Protocol dictates that we prepare for a formal reception." Lyra's heart quickened. Visitors from other planets were rare. Humans were known to travel the galaxy, but few had ever set foot on Zithra. Even the idea that a human might be approaching her home thrilled her. Humans were stories she had read in ancient texts, creatures of curiosity, courage, and unpredictable ingenuity. The ship landed in the central plaza, and the doors opened with a soft hiss. A figure emerged, tall, with dark hair and bright eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. The human moved with a mixture of confidence and awe, as if both respecting and marveling at the floating city around him. King Thalos, seated on a high dais overlooking the landing site, observed carefully. "Identify him," he commanded, his voice calm but carrying authority that made the air itself seem to tighten. "Explorer from Earth called Ethan," Kyle replied. "No weapons detected. Appears unarmed." Lyra's eyes sparkled. Ethan. Even the sound of his name felt new and intriguing. She stepped closer to the balcony edge, forgetting for a moment her royal posture. The ceremony began. Lyra watched as Ethan approached, bowing slightly, not out of fear but respect. The human's ways were different, less formal, less rigid, and that difference made him stand out among Zithra's visitors, who were usually meticulously trained diplomats or scientists. "Welcome to Zithra," King Thalos said, his tone firm. "You are far from your home planet. Tell us your purpose here." Ethan's voice was calm, steady, and yet warm. "I come to learn, Your Majesty. My mission is to study Zithra's environment, society, and technology. I wish to understand your people and your culture." Lyra felt an unexpected warmth at his words. Most visitors made demands or brought political agendas, but Ethan spoke of learning. That simple curiosity, so natural to humans, seemed almost magical. The ceremony concluded and Ethan was led through the palace halls by Kale. Lyra followed discreetly, her interest piqued. She found herself wanting to know everything about this human explorer, the way he saw the world, the way he moved, the way he seemed genuinely curious about everything he touched. That evening, the palace held a grand feast in Ethan's honor. The hall shimmered with crystal lights and soft music played by alien instruments that created sounds Lyra had never heard before. Guests from every corner of Zithra were present, each more adorned than the next, their garments reflecting the floating lights above. Ethan moved through the crowd with an ease that surprised Lyra. He asked questions, not to show knowledge, but to learn from others. He listened with genuine attention, and when he spoke, people noticed. There was a spark in him, a brightness that seemed to radiate beyond his human form. Lyra finally approached him. She introduced herself, and for a moment the grandeur of the feast faded around them. They spoke quietly, in a corner where the light shimmered softly. "I have never met a human before," Lyra said, curiosity brimming in her voice. "You see things differently than we do," Ethan smiled. "And I have never met a princess like you. Zithra is unlike anything I imagined, but you make it feel alive. You notice things others do not." Their conversation flowed naturally as though they had known each other for years. They spoke of stars, of planets, of the mysteries that lay beyond their worlds. Lyra felt her heart stir in ways she had never experienced, an unfamiliar, thrilling sensation. It was not fear nor duty, but interest, admiration, and something she could not yet name. As the night deepened, King Thalos observed from his throne. He noticed his daughter's attention lingering on the human, and a shadow crossed his face. He had always imagined Lyra's alliances would strengthen the throne, not distract her with foreign infatuations. He would not allow frivolity to cloud judgment, not even for his only child. Meanwhile, Lyra felt an unspoken connection growing. She did not understand it fully, but she sensed that Ethan's arrival was no ordinary visit. His presence seemed to awaken something inside her, a longing for freedom, for choice, for a life beyond the expectations of royalty. That night, Lyra returned to her chambers. She looked out at the glowing city below, her mind alive with thoughts of the human explorer. She wondered what it would be like to walk among his world, to see things the way he did. Her heart told her one thing, her mind told her another, and a small, rebellious smile touched her lips. Somewhere far away on a distant planet called Earth, Ethan looked up at Zithra's twin moons through his own tiny window on the ship. He wondered if he had made the right decision to come, but something deep inside urged him forward. The universe was vast, mysterious, and full of surprises, and he had a feeling that meeting Princess Lyra was only the beginning of a story neither of them could yet imagine. The time the first light of Zithra's twin suns broke over the horizon, both Lyra and Ethan were awake. Their thoughts intertwined, though they were separated by duty, expectation, and the invisible walls of their respective worlds. The stage was set, the players in motion. One would seek knowledge, the other adventure. And both would soon discover that the universe had a way of testing hearts in the most unexpected ways. The palace corridors buzzed with preparation for Ethan's first official exploration of Zithra. Guards whispered, advisors argued over protocols, and servants scurried to prepare meals suitable for human taste. Lyra, however, felt a quiet determination. She would watch over him, guide him in secret, and perhaps in the process discover more about herself than she ever had before. The first day of exploration promised wonder, discovery, and the first sparks of a connection that would challenge tradition, test loyalty, and shape the destiny of a princess and a planet. As Ethan stepped outside the palace gates, Lyra's heart raced. The adventure was beginning, not just for him, but for her people, and for the future of Zithra itself. And in the quiet of the night, as stars shimmered above and the city pulsed with life, the first chapter of an extraordinary story unfolded, one that would show that courage, curiosity, and the heart's desires could change the course of destiny forever. The morning sun rose over Zithra, bathing the floating city in soft gold and violet light. Princess Lyra stood on her balcony once again, her thoughts already on the human explorer, Ethan. She remembered their first conversation at the feast and how easy it had felt to talk to him, as if no rules, no walls, no palace protocol existed between them. But the palace was filled with rules, and King Thalos's shadow always loomed over her. Lyra decided to take a bold step. She sent a secret message to Ethan through Kale, her trusted advisor. The message was simple: meet me at the Celestial Gardens at dusk alone. She knew it was risky. If the king discovered it, there would be consequences. Yet her heart insisted that some connections were worth the risk. Ethan received the message with a mixture of surprise and excitement. The Celestial Gardens were a hidden part of the palace, a place where floating walkways weaved through glowing plants and rare levitating flowers bloomed. Only the royal family and a few trusted staff knew of it. He could not have imagined that such a place existed. When dusk arrived, Lyra slipped away from her chambers, careful not to be seen by the palace guards. She arrived at the gardens, the soft hum of energy fields making the flowers glow brighter in her presence. Ethan was already there, waiting by a sparkling fountain. "Lyra," he said softly, bowing his head slightly in respect, though there was warmth in his eyes. "I was wondering if you would come." "I had to," Lyra replied, a mixture of determination and excitement in her voice. "This place, it's beautiful, and it feels like the world belongs to us here, not the throne or the palace walls." Ethan smiled, walking beside her as they wandered through the garden paths. "Humans often seek places like this," he said. "Quiet, hidden, where we can think freely. It seems you needed a place like this too." Lyra laughed quietly, the sound blending with the gentle music of the floating fountains. "I need many things humans have. Freedom, choice, a life where my decisions belong to me, not just to the kingdom or my father." Ethan listened carefully, understanding more in her tone than in her words. "Then maybe you will find that even small steps toward freedom are powerful. Even if others do not understand, the heart knows the path it wants to follow." As they walked, they shared stories about their worlds. Lyra spoke of the history of Zithera, its achievements in science and art, and the pressures of ruling a planet. Ethan told her about Earth, of oceans and forests, cities built of steel and glass, and the diversity of human cultures. Each story fascinated the other, and each answered questions they had about the universe that no book or lesson could provide. The hours passed quickly, and soon the twin moons rose above the city, casting a silver glow over the gardens. Lyra realized that she felt lighter, freer than she had in years. She could speak, laugh, and even argue without fear of reprimand in Ethan's presence. But the palace, as always, was watching. One of the palace guards, unaware of the secret meeting, noticed Lyra's absence. He reported it immediately to Kale, who understood the risk but also knew the importance of these moments for the princess. He decided not to report it to King Thalos just yet. Some lessons, he thought, needed to be learned through experience. Lyra and Ethan's meetings became a daily ritual. They explored hidden parts of the palace, sometimes venturing into libraries filled with ancient scrolls and holographic archives. They discussed philosophy, science, and art, comparing the best of human innovation with the most advanced technologies of Zithera. Ethan marveled at the way Zitherans could manipulate energy and matter, while Lyra was fascinated by human resilience, creativity, and boldness. One day, Ethan gently held her hand as they stood on a floating bridge high above the city. "Lyra," he said softly, "I feel connected to you in a way I cannot explain. Humans call this friendship, but I think it may be something deeper." Lyra's heart fluttered. She had felt the same, though she had not allowed herself to admit it yet. "I feel it too," she confessed. "But we cannot ignore what lies ahead. My father, the throne, the expectations," Ethan nodded. "I know. But even within rules and expectations, the heart finds a way. We can choose how we respond, even if the world does not understand." Their friendship, however, could not remain hidden forever. Whispers began circulating in the palace. Servants and minor officials noticed the princess's frequent excursions and the presence of the human explorer. Some reported their suspicions to the king, carefully avoiding judgment, but unable to hide their curiosity. King Thalos watched his daughter carefully. He had always known she had a spirited nature, but he underestimated how strongly she might connect with someone from another world. "She cannot afford distractions," he told Kale. "The fate of Zithera depends on her. Her heart must belong to the people, not a foreign visitor." Kyle, though loyal, had begun to wonder if the king's rigid thinking might be the very thing that prevented Zithera from evolving. Humans, after all, had accomplished great things through courage, empathy, and daring choices. Perhaps, Kale thought, Lyra was discovering something that even her father could not see. Despite the risks, Lyra continued meeting Ethan. They discovered a hidden observatory where they could watch the stars. Ethan showed her Earth's constellations through his small telescope, naming them after heroes, explorers, and legends. Lyra, in return, taught him about Zithera's unique constellations and their meanings. "You see," Ethan said one night, pointing at the stars, "no matter how far apart our worlds are, the sky reminds us that we share the same universe. We can be separated by planets but connected by the same stars." Lyra's eyes sparkled. "It feels possible," she whispered, "as if anything is possible if we have courage and belief." Their friendship deepened into mutual admiration. Lyra began questioning her father's rules more openly, wondering why love, curiosity, and choice were often seen as secondary to duty. Ethan, though from a world far less advanced than Zithera technologically, showed her bravery, kindness, and a perspective she had never considered. Humans, she realized, were extraordinary not because of their machines but because of their hearts. One afternoon they encountered a minor threat. A small group of palace guards, unaware of the secret meeting, found them in the garden. Ethan acted quickly, hiding Lyra behind a flowering energy tree, and used his calm voice to divert the guards. Lyra's heart pounded, not from fear of Ethan but from the realization that she had chosen a path her father might never approve of. "Are you all right?" Ethan whispered once the guards had passed. "Yes," Lyra said, her hand brushing his arm. "Because of you, yes." It was a moment of silent understanding. Danger did not scare her as much as it once did. With Ethan by her side, she felt stronger, braver, and more alive than ever before. But the palace corridors buzzed with rumors. Advisors whispered to the king, hinting that the princess's heart might be wandering beyond the boundaries of royal duty. King Thalos felt the first pangs of concern, though he did not yet confront Lyra directly. He believed that love must be controlled, that emotions were secondary to loyalty. Yet deep down, he could not ignore the glow of happiness he noticed on his daughter's face. Lyra and Ethan's meetings continued in secret. They learned from each other, laughed, argued, and dreamed. Each day the connection between human and princess grew stronger, uniting two worlds in quiet rebellion against expectation. They began planning small adventures beyond the palace walls, exploring the floating gardens at night, observing the twin moons rise, and even piloting small observation crafts over the shimmering cityscape. In those stolen moments, Lyra realized that friendship and love were not weaknesses, but strengths that could inspire courage. And Ethan understood that humans had something to learn from Zithara as well, not only in technology, but in empathy, culture, and understanding the balance of a society that valued both tradition and progress. Yet, neither of them ignored the truth. What they shared was forbidden. If King Thalos discovered the depth of their bond, consequences would be severe. Still, the human and the princess chose to follow their hearts even when the path was uncertain. And in that choice, they discovered the most important lesson of all, that true connection is worth risk. And bravery is not only in facing enemies but in trusting the heart. As the moons cast their silver light over Zithara that night, Lyra and Ethan sat side by side in the celestial gardens. Watching the city below sparkle like a living jewel, the world felt alive, full of possibilities, challenges, and choices yet to be made. Lyra knew the road ahead would not be easy, that her father might never understand, and that danger could strike at any moment. But for the first time in her life, she also knew that she was not alone. And as the stars twinkled above, Ethan whispered, "No matter what comes, we face it together." Lyra smiled, resting her hand over his. "Together," she agreed, knowing that their friendship and perhaps something more was the beginning of something extraordinary, not only for them, but for the future of Zithara itself. The days on Zithara grew longer, and the twin suns painted the skies in brilliant shades of gold and purple. Princess Lyra found herself more drawn than ever to the human explorer Ethan. Each secret meeting in the celestial gardens or hidden observatory strengthened a connection she could no longer ignore. What had begun as curiosity and admiration was blossoming into something deeper, something neither of them could name but both felt intensely. Ethan noticed it too. He watched Lyra with quiet wonder, fascinated not just by her beauty and grace but by the fire in her eyes, a fire of intelligence, compassion, and courage. Humans were not accustomed to floating cities or crystal spires, but they were adept at recognizing bravery and sincerity, and in Lyra, he saw both in abundance. One evening, the palace hosted a ceremonial gala to honor visiting dignitaries from neighboring systems. The halls gleamed with floating chandeliers, and holographic projections danced across the walls, illustrating Zithara's rich history. Lyra, expected to perform her duties as princess, felt a pang of frustration. She longed to escape, to be with Ethan, to speak freely without the weight of expectation pressing down upon her. As the gala began, she found an opportunity. Excusing herself under the pretense of attending to royal responsibilities, she slipped into the quiet corridors and made her way to the hidden observatory where Ethan waited. "I thought you would come," Ethan said with a small smile, his eyes lighting up as he saw her. Lyra returned the smile, feeling a warmth that no palace grandeur could provide. I could not stay away. Not tonight. They wandered among the telescopes and ancient instruments, talking softly about the stars. Ethan pointed out constellations, describing stories of heroes and explorers from his planet. Lyra, in turn, shared Zithara's celestial legends, tales of guardians who protected the skies and travelers who charted new worlds. As the conversation deepened, Lyra felt a thrill she had never experienced. "You make me see Zithara differently," she said quietly. "Not as a place of rules and duty, but as a place full of wonder, and I feel as if I can breathe here." Ethan reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "That is how it should feel. Life should feel alive, not trapped, and you deserve to feel alive every day." Their hands touched for a brief moment, and the spark between them ignited into something undeniable. Neither of them spoke, but the silence was filled with understanding. Lyra's heart raced, and Ethan felt an emotion he had not experienced before, a profound connection that went beyond friendship. Days turned into weeks, and their encounters grew more daring. They explored hidden gardens, secret tunnels beneath the palace, and observation decks high above the city, where the wind carried their laughter across the skyline. With every shared moment, their trust deepened, and their feelings became impossible to hide. One afternoon, as they floated above the city in a small observation craft, Lyra turned to Ethan with a mixture of excitement and fear. "I feel, Ethan, something I cannot name. It is stronger than friendship. It is something I have never allowed myself to feel." Ethan's gaze met hers, calm but intense. "Lyra, I feel it too. I cannot explain it, but I know it is real. Humans call it love, perhaps. It is the same for you." Lyra's breath caught. The word felt strange yet fitting. She had been raised to see love as a distraction, a danger to duty. But now, in Ethan's presence, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Their feelings, however, could not escape the watchful eyes of the palace. Whispers of the princess's frequent absences grew louder, and King Thalos began to sense a change in her behavior. She was no longer content with simple duty. Her mind was filled with questions, dreams, and unspoken desires. One evening, Kale approached the king cautiously. "Your Majesty, I believe the princess has found companionship with the human explorer. It is unprecedented, but there is no evidence of wrongdoing. Only connection." King Thalos's face hardened. "Connection? Friendship is acceptable, Kale. But I will not allow her heart to be swayed by an outsider. Love is dangerous. Distraction can lead to disaster. We cannot afford this risk." Meanwhile, Lyra and Ethan continued their secret meetings, oblivious to the storm brewing above. They discovered a small abandoned observatory tucked between two crystal spires, a place untouched by palace guards. Here they shared stories of their childhood's dreams and fears. "I used to imagine the stars as friends," Ethan said one night, looking through his telescope. "When I was small, I believed they were watching over me, guiding me. I never thought I would meet someone who made me feel as if the stars themselves led me to her." Lyra's heart swelled. "I understand. The stars feel alive here too. And now, with you, it feels as if the universe has aligned to bring us together." In that moment, the first real spark of romance ignited. Their hands found each other again, and this time neither pulled away. Their closeness was gentle yet electric, a mixture of trust, affection, and the thrill of defiance. But as their feelings deepened, so did the danger. The king, learning more about their bond, summoned advisors to discuss the potential threat to the monarchy. "A human cannot be allowed influence over the princess," he declared. "She must choose duty over desire, or the kingdom may suffer." Unaware of the king's deliberations, Lyra and Ethan explored the city under the cover of night. They rode in small air gliders, laughing as they skimmed the top of glowing spires. Lyra marveled at the beauty of Zithara, not as a ruler but as a person experiencing the world freely. During one of these flights, Ethan held her hand tightly. "Lyra, whatever comes, we must trust ourselves. We may face obstacles, but we are stronger together." Lyra nodded, feeling a sense of courage she had never known. "I will not let fear control me," she said. "Not my father, not the throne, not even the rules of this world. I want to choose my own path." Their bond did not go unnoticed. Rumors reached certain members of the palace staff who were loyal to tradition. They began watching the princess more closely, reporting strange behaviors, small disappearances, and glimpses of the human explorer in hidden areas. King Thalos's concern grew with each report. He realized that Lyra's affection for Ethan was more than a fleeting curiosity. The human had captured her attention and, in some ways, her heart. This was a threat he had not anticipated, a challenge to the authority he had always maintained. Meanwhile, Lyra and Ethan found solace in their secret haven, the abandoned observatory. Here they spoke freely, their laughter echoing off the walls and blending with the hum of ancient machinery. Lyra confided her fears and hopes. "I do not want to disappoint my father," she admitted softly. "But I also cannot ignore what I feel. I care for you, Ethan. More than I should, perhaps." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "Lyra, caring is not weakness. It is strength. Humans, Zitherans, anyone who follows their heart shows bravery, and you, more than anyone I know, are brave." Their eyes met, and for the first time they allowed themselves to acknowledge fully the depth of their feelings. It was a delicate, quiet moment, but one that changed everything. The spark of friendship had grown into the first true flame of love. As night fell over Zithera, the twin moons cast silver light over the city. Lyra and Ethan stood side by side, holding hands and looking out at the floating towers and shimmering streets. They knew the road ahead would not be easy. There were rules to follow, expectations to meet, and a king who would not understand their connection. Yet in that moment, they chose each other. They chose trust, courage, and the possibility of love even in the face of uncertainty. And that choice, though small, was the first step in a journey that would challenge the very foundations of Zithera's society. Lyra whispered, "Ethan, whatever happens, I want to be with you." Ethan smiled, brushing a strand of her hair behind her ear. "And I want to be with you. Always. No matter what the stars, the throne, or the universe throws at us." In that secret observatory, hidden above the city and far from the gaze of the palace, love took root. The spark had grown, and though the future was uncertain, Lyra and Ethan faced it together. The adventure had only just begun. The floating city of Zithera shimmered beneath the twin suns, its towers glowing gold and violet in the late afternoon light. Princess Lyra stood in her private chambers, gazing out at the bustling streets far below. Her heart was heavy with a mixture of excitement and fear. Every secret meeting with Ethan had strengthened their bond, but she knew that the time for secrecy could not last forever. King Thalos had begun to take notice. Whispers from palace advisors and the increased vigilance of his guards made it clear. He would not tolerate her growing attachment to a human. No matter how honorable or brave, Lyra's mind raced with possibilities. She had been taught that duty always came first, that the crown required sacrifice. But her heart had spoken loudly, insisting that she must follow her feelings, even if it meant defying her father. Lyra took a deep breath and summoned Kale, her trusted advisor. "Kyle," she said firmly, "I cannot ignore what I feel. I care for Ethan, and I will not hide it anymore. I must act according to my heart, not just my duty." Kyle's expression was troubled. "Your Highness, defiance carries great risk. The king will not accept this lightly. Your position, even your safety, could be threatened." "I understand," Lyra replied, her voice steady. "But if I cannot choose my own path, how can I lead with honesty and courage? I must take this step, even if it frightens me." With Kale's reluctant support, Lyra made preparations. She sent a carefully worded invitation to Ethan, asking him to meet her at the Celestial Gardens that evening. But unlike before, she intended to make a public choice, a declaration that could change everything. Ethan arrived just as the twin suns began to dip below the horizon, bathing the city in soft amber and violet hues. Lyra's eyes shone with determination as she approached him. "Ethan, tonight will be different," she said. "I cannot remain hidden. I must show the world that my heart belongs to those I choose, not those dictated by tradition." Ethan nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. "I am ready, Lyra. Whatever comes, we face it together." They moved through the gardens, their hands lightly brushing against each other as they walked. The floating paths glowed beneath their feet, and the rare plants swayed gently as if acknowledging the courage of the princess who dared to challenge expectation. Word of Lyra's decision spread quickly through the palace. Whispers reached King Thalos even before the announcement could be made. He stormed through the corridors, his face stern and unyielding. "This cannot happen," he declared to his advisors. "A human cannot claim influence over the princess. She must obey, or there will be consequences." Yet the princess had already begun. Standing before a gathering of palace officials, advisors, and a few trusted citizens, Lyra raised her voice, calm but resolute. "I am Princess Lyra of Zithera," she began, "and I have been raised to serve my people and honor my family. But I have also learned that leadership requires honesty, compassion, and courage. Today I declare that my heart belongs to someone I have chosen freely, not because tradition demands it, but because it is true." Gasps echoed through the hall. Courtiers murmured, unsure how to react. Some were shocked, others impressed. Ethan stepped forward, bowing respectfully but standing tall beside her. "I am Ethan, a human from Earth," he said. "I care for Princess Lyra, and I honor her choice. I am here to support her, not to claim power, but to walk beside her in trust and respect." King Thalos entered then, his expression thunderous. "Lyra, how dare you defy me in front of the court? Your duty is to your people, to your throne, not to a visitor from another world." Lyra turned to face her father, her eyes unwavering. "Father, duty and love are not opposites. True leadership comes from the heart as much as from wisdom. I will not hide my feelings because they do not weaken me. They give me strength. I choose to lead honestly and to love freely." The room fell silent. Many of the courtiers were unsure how to respond, but Kale watched closely, realizing that the people would follow Lyra if she led with courage. He had seen her bravery in secret, and now it shone openly for all to witness. King Thalos's face darkened. He summoned his guards to intervene, but Ethan moved forward, calm yet firm. "I mean no harm," he said. "We ask only for understanding. I am not here to challenge Zithera's rule. I am here because we believe in trust, respect, and love. That is our strength." The king's anger did not lessen, but he paused. He saw in Ethan a bravery and honesty he could not dismiss. Unlike many who had visited Zithera, this human did not seek power, only connection. And for the first time, Thalos began to wonder if perhaps there was something valuable in this courage, something that could inspire his people rather than weaken them. Meanwhile, citizens of Zithera, who had been observing the events quietly from afar, began murmuring with approval. Many had seen Lyra's kindness, her intelligence, and her bravery in dealing with the challenges of ruling. Her public declaration of choice resonated with them as it demonstrated honesty and strength, not weakness. Yet challenges remained. Some advisors insisted that the monarchy could not allow personal feelings to influence decisions. Others warned that the alliance with humans might bring unforeseen complications. Lyra listened, but she remained resolute. "I hear your concerns," she said, "but I also see a world that is ready to grow, to embrace courage, and to understand that love and duty can coexist." That evening, after the tension in the court had eased slightly, Lyra and Ethan returned to the celestial gardens. They walked among glowing plants, their hands intertwined. The city below shimmered like a jewel, reflecting the light of the twin moons above. "You were incredible today," Ethan said quietly. "I have never seen someone speak with such courage. You inspire me, Lyra." Lyra smiled, her heart full. "It was not just me," she replied. "It was us. We faced it together. And no matter what challenges lie ahead, we will continue to face them side by side." But the struggle was far from over. King Thalos retreated to his chambers, his mind racing. He had underestimated his daughter's determination and the strength of her bond with a human. He realized that trying to control her heart might push her further away. And though he struggled with his own pride and traditions, he also began to see that perhaps leadership was not only about power, but about understanding and trust. Over the next days, Lyra and Ethan continued to navigate the complexities of life in Zithera. They moved carefully, balancing public duties with private moments of connection. The citizens who had witnessed Lyra's courage expressed quiet support, sending her small messages of encouragement through trusted channels. Lyra's strength inspired more than just admiration. It sparked a subtle shift in the palace. Some advisors, initially skeptical, began to see the wisdom in her approach. Choosing love and trust did not make her weak, but brave. Her courage began to ripple through the ranks, demonstrating that true leadership required more than obedience to tradition. It required the ability to listen to the heart. One night, as Lyra and Ethan sat atop a floating terrace overlooking the glowing city, Lyra spoke softly. "I know my father may never fully understand. The path ahead will not be easy. But I feel ready for it now, because I am not alone. We are together, and that is enough to give me strength." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "We will face whatever comes together. Zithra, your father, the expectations of the throne, none of it will be easy. But courage is not about ease. Courage is about choosing what is right, even when it is hard." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of her responsibilities and the freedom that came from her choice. She understood that love had given her a new kind of strength, one that could challenge tradition, inspire her people, and even touch the heart of her father. And so, as the twin moons cast silver light across the floating towers and shimmering streets, Lyra and Ethan stood side by side. They had faced fear, defiance, and the unknown, yet they remained unbroken. Their love, once a quiet spark in secret, gardens had become a flame of courage, lighting the path toward a future where choice, honesty, and the heart could guide even the most rigid of worlds. The king, though still troubled, watched from a distance. For the first time, he wondered if true strength was not in control or command, but in trust, respect, and the bravery to let another's heart follow its own path. And though he did not yet speak of acceptance, he could no longer deny the power of what he had witnessed. The unwavering courage of his daughter, and the honesty of the human who had captured her heart. Lyra knew the challenges were not over, but she also knew that love had given her courage, and courage would guide her through whatever trials lay ahead. The path forward was uncertain, but it was hers to choose, and she would walk it boldly, with Ethan by her side. The story of their defiance, their love, and their courage was only beginning, and it would echo across Zithra, challenging tradition, inspiring hearts, and proving that the greatest leaders were those who followed both wisdom and the heart. The twin suns of Zithra rose over the floating city, casting a warm golden light across the crystal towers and shimmering streets. Princess Lyra stood on her balcony, her heart steady and determined. The events of the past weeks had changed everything, not just her life, but the very atmosphere of the palace. She had chosen her heart, faced her father, and inspired the people of Zithra with her courage. Yet the greatest challenge still awaited, earning King Thalos's full understanding and acceptance. Ethan stood quietly behind her, his hand lightly brushing hers. He had never left her side, supporting her with calm strength and unwavering loyalty. Together they had faced rumors, palace scrutiny, and the weight of tradition. And now they would face the king directly, not in defiance but in hope. Hope that truth and courage could bridge even the widest divide. King Thalos sat in his private chambers, the weight of the crown pressing heavily on his shoulders. He had watched his daughter openly declare her choice, witnessed her strength, and even noticed the quiet support of his citizens. Deep inside, he knew Lyra was right. Leadership required courage, honesty, and the ability to follow the heart. Yet pride and tradition battled with understanding. Could he truly accept a human as a companion for his daughter? Could he allow love to guide her decisions without fearing it might weaken the throne? Lyra approached the king with measured steps. Ethan followed closely, respectful and calm. "Father," Lyra began, her voice steady, "we wish to speak with you, not in defiance but in hope. I ask that you listen to our hearts and not only to tradition." King Thalos studied them, his eyes narrowing as he tried to contain his emotions. "Speak, Lyra, and speak honestly. I will hear you." Lyra took a deep breath. "Father, I have always honored Zithra, its people, and its traditions. But I have also learned that duty without truth is incomplete. Leadership is not only about power and obedience. It is about understanding, compassion, and courage. I care for Ethan not because he is powerful or wealthy or influential, but because he is brave, kind, and honest. He has shown me what courage looks like, what love and trust can create, and I believe these qualities make us stronger, not weaker. Ethan stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Your Majesty, I do not seek power or control. I am here because I care for Lyra and I respect her fully. My place is beside her, as a partner, a friend, and someone who believes in courage and honesty. I only wish to support her, and through that, support the people of Zithera. The king's expression softened, though he did not yet smile. He could not deny the truth in Ethan's words, nor the sincerity in Lyra's eyes. He saw the loyalty, the courage, and the strength that bound them together. And in that moment he understood that love, true, honest, and brave, was not a threat to the throne, but a source of inspiration for the entire kingdom. After a long silence, King Thalos spoke. Lyra, you have always shown intelligence, courage, and wisdom beyond your years, and you have chosen to follow your heart despite fear and expectation. This is not weakness, it is strength. And Ethan, I see your sincerity. I see that you are not a threat, but a partner in courage and truth. Lyra's eyes glimmered with hope. Father, I ask only that you trust in us and in the strength that honesty and love can bring. Together we can face any challenge, and together we can serve Zithera with courage and integrity. King Thalos rose from his throne, walking slowly toward them. He studied the two, the human and the princess, and for the first time he felt a sense of peace. Then so be it, he said quietly. I will trust you both. I will trust that your hearts are true and that your courage will guide you wisely. May Zithera benefit from this choice, and may our people see that strength comes not only from tradition, but from honesty and love. A weight lifted from Lyra's shoulders. She stepped forward, bowing slightly to her father. Ethan did the same, and in that moment a bridge was built, between tradition and freedom, duty and heart, father and daughter. The news spread quickly through Zithera. Citizens, once hesitant or fearful of change, began to celebrate the princess's courage. Her choice to embrace love, honesty, and partnership with a human inspired discussions across the floating city. People saw that bravery was not measured by rank or power, but by the willingness to stand for truth even against great risk. Lyra and Ethan became symbols of a new era. Together they worked to blend the traditions of Zithera with lessons learned from the human world, empathy, innovation, and collaboration. They initiated programs to share knowledge between humans and Zitherans, encouraging cultural exchange, exploration, and understanding. One evening they stood together on the highest balcony of the Royal Observatory, overlooking the glowing city below. The world feels different now, Lyra said, resting her hand in Ethan's. Not because the city has changed, but because we have changed. Our courage, our choice, it has opened the hearts of our people. Ethan smiled, eyes reflecting the glow of the floating towers. And it has shown that humans and Zitherans can learn from each other. That the universe is vast, but hearts can connect across worlds. We faced fear, expectation, and tradition, and we chose trust, honesty, and love. That is what truly matters. Lyra nodded, feeling a sense of fulfillment she had never known. The path ahead would not always be easy. Challenges and responsibilities still awaited, but she knew that together they could face any obstacle. The courage of the human heart, combined with the wisdom and compassion of a princess, had created something extraordinary. In the following weeks, King Thalos took steps to support this new era. He encouraged cultural exchanges, honored human visitors, and even invited Ethan to participate in advisory councils, not as a ruler, but as a partner in learning and innovation. The palace, once rigid and formal, began to open its doors to creativity, collaboration, and progress. Lyra's courage had reshaped not only her own life, but the destiny of Zithera itself. She no longer saw the throne as a cage, but as a platform for positive change. She understood that leadership was not just about rules or authority, but about inspiring trust, respect, and courage in others. One night, as the twin moons rose over the floating city, Lyra and Ethan walked through the celestial gardens. The plants glowed softly, the fountains whispered in gentle hums, and the city beneath them shimmered like a sea of stars. They paused on a floating bridge, hands intertwined, and looked out at the horizon. I never imagined it could be like this, Lyra said softly. Love, courage, duty, they can exist together, and we have shown that it is possible. Ethan squeezed her hand. Yes, and this is only the beginning. We have so much to explore, so much to learn, and so much to share. Together we can face anything. Lyra smiled, feeling a sense of certainty and joy. Together, she agreed. And in that word lay a promise of partnership, courage, and love that would guide them through the future. The people of Zethera, inspired by her bravery, began to embrace change. Laws were reconsidered, traditions adapted, and the kingdom grew stronger through understanding and trust. Lyra's story became legendary, a tale told across generations, of a princess who chose love over fear, who defied expectations not out of rebellion, but out of courage and truth, and of a human who proved that bravery, honesty, and the heart's wisdom could bridge worlds. Ethan and Lyra continued their journey, exploring Zethera and the stars beyond, sharing knowledge, understanding, and love. The bond they had forged in secret gardens and observatories became a force that shaped the future, not just for themselves, but for all who followed. And so, under the twin suns and silver moons of Zethera, a new era dawned. A world where courage and love walked hand in hand, where duty and the heart coexisted, and where a human and a princess proved that the most extraordinary power in the universe was not technology, not wealth, not rank, but the strength of the heart and the bravery to follow it. The city shimmered, alive with possibility. Lyra and Ethan stood together, ready to face whatever the universe had in store, knowing that love, courage, and honesty could overcome any obstacle. And in that knowledge they found not only happiness, but the power to inspire generations to come. The story of Zethera, the princess and the human explorer, was complete, yet it also marked a beginning. The beginning of a world that would never forget that love could triumph, courage could change destiny, and hearts could shape the future.